Hi, in this session we will introduce the concept of planar graphs. Okay, so before we discuss the concept of planar graphs, it is important to understand that in graph theory, okay, as we have discussed earlier, we are not interested in the figure per se, we are not interested in the graph per se. Why is it so? Because a graph which is drawn like this is just the same as the graph like this. So we are only interested in the connections between the vertices and their edges and other properties. We are not actually interested in the figure of the edges. So we are not interested in the diagram per se. We are only interested in the connections between the nodes and also their edges, etc. So that is one thing you have to understand. Okay, what do you mean by planar graph? Okay, planar graph is basically a graph which can be drawn in such a way that its edges will not cross over. For example, suppose I have a graph like this. Okay, here suppose I have a graph like this. Okay, so we can see that in this graph the edges are getting a crossover. Okay, so is this not a planar graph? So the planar graph will not have crossovers like this. So but this graph cannot be drawn in such a way that this is planar. For example, you can remove this crossover by a simple change in diagram. That is, if I draw it like this, I can actually, if I draw the connection like this, both these graphs are just the same. If you want, you can prove that they are isomorphic because the connections are just the same. I have only drawn it in a slightly different way. Okay, so this graph is actually planar. Okay, so what is a planar graph? A graph, okay, any graph which can be drawn in such a way that its edges will not cross over is called a planar graph. Okay, so this is called a planar embedding of the given graph, or planar embedding of this graph. This is actually called the planar embedding of this graph, or we'll say it's a plane representation of the graph. Okay, so we have been given a graph and we have drawn a plane representation of that graph. Okay, so there can be many plane representations for the same graph. For example, in this graph itself, I can draw it in another way. Suppose if you draw it like this, so I'm drawing it like this one, and the connection should be between them. So I'll just draw it like this. So I'll just draw it like this. So basically, this is also a planar representation of the same graph. Okay, so a graph can have many planar embeddings. Okay, so what do you mean by planar graph? It is clear. So what do you mean by non-planar graph? A graph which cannot be drawn in such a way that edges will not cross over is called a non-planar graph. For example, so if I draw the bipartite graph K33, okay, so we'll actually prove it is non-planar later, but it is non-planar. That's what I hope you know what is K33. K33 is actually complete bipartite graph where you are drawing it like this one. Okay, so this is it, and this is it. So this is actually a non-planar graph. So if you want, you can try to find a representation which in such a way that no edges will cross over. You can try to draw it like that, but you will ultimately fail because it cannot be drawn it like that. It's a non-planar graph. Okay, you can try many representation of this graph. So this is an example of a non-planar graph. Okay, so a non-planar graph is a graph in which it cannot be drawn in such a way that its edges will not cross over. And a planar graph is a graph in which it can be drawn in such a way that its edges will not cross over. Okay, so remember, if a graph is given and if its edges are crossing over, it doesn't mean that it is non-planar. Okay, it can be drawn in another way, in such a way that it is planar. Okay, for example, if you look at this graph, the edges are crossing over, and don't say at first that it is non-planar. It is planar because I can redraw this graph in such a way that the edges will not cross over. I can draw it like this. So basically, by looking at the graph, you can't decide whether a graph is planar or non-planar. If you have to prove it is non-planar, you have to show that of all the plane embeddings, none can be drawn without crossover. Okay, that's the idea. So by just looking at the graph and just looking at the crossovers, you can't decide whether a graph is planar or not. But we'll devise some methods in this session to identify whether a graph is planar or not. Okay, I hope it is clear. Okay, so as I told you, both these graphs are just the same. We are not interested in the diagrams here. Okay, so basically a graph is said to be planar if there exists some geometric representation of G which can be drawn on a plane such that no two of its edges intersect. Or you can simply say that a graph G is said to be planar if it can be drawn in such a way that no two of its edges cross over. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, so cannot be drawn on a plane without a crossover between edges. It is called non-planar graph. Okay, I hope it is clear. Okay, and similarly, as I told you, the plane representation of a graph where there is no crossover, it is called a plane embedding, or we will also call it as a plane representation. So both these terms are used interchangeably. Okay, so you can also, so for example, in the K4 is given here. K4 is the complete graph on 4 vertices. So the two plane embeddings of K4 is this. One other embedding also I have already given to you. So this was another embedding which I have discussed earlier. So there can be many plane embeddings for a given graph. Okay, so it's not necessary that only one embedding is there. Many plane embeddings are there. Okay, so as I told you, a graph can have many embeddings. Okay, so to show that a graph is non-planar, we have to show that of all possible geometric representation of G, none can be embedded in a plane. So one way is try to draw a diagram, and if you are not able to draw a diagram in such a way that no edges are getting crossover, so then it means it's non-planar. Okay, so that's the way you have to do it. So we'll also devise some results which will help you to identify whether a graph is planar or not. Okay, so that's called plane representation and everything. So before that, now we'll discuss some preliminary results of planarity. So first of all, the main important result is that Kuratowski's two graphs are non-planar. There are two Kuratowski's graphs, Kuratowski's first graph and Kuratowski's second graph. The main result is that Kuratowski's two graphs are non-planar. We'll prove this result later when we decide some results. So now let us discuss what are these Kuratowski's graph, two graphs. The first Kuratowski's first graph is basically K5, the complete graph for 5 vertices, and the Kuratowski's second graph is actually K33, which I have already drawn for you. It is the complete bipartite graph on graph containing 6 vertices. So this is Kuratowski's second graph. Okay, so this already we had discussed it earlier. So this one is this is the second graph. This is non-planar. The first graph is the complete graph on 5 vertices. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now draw all edges between all the vertices. So that complete graph on 5 vertices. You can draw it everything. You can draw. So try drawing everything. So it is there. So this is Kuratowski's first graph. So draw it clearly. So this is also non-planar. So these two are non-planar graphs. Okay. So we'll make use of this results to prove generally how a graph can be planar or not. But remember now that Kuratowski's two graph, that is the complete graph on 5 vertices, and also the complete bipartite graph K33 are also non-planar. Okay. So these are the examples of this is Kuratowski's first graph and this is Kuratowski's second graph. Okay, so that's clear. It's clear. Now I'll just make some remarks about these graphs. First of all, both these graphs are regular. Okay, so you can see the degree of all the vertices is just same here. The degree of all the vertices is 4. Here the degree of all these vertices is 3. Okay, so both of the graphs are actually regular graphs. Okay. And similarly, removal of one vertex or one edge will make the graph planar. You can try to draw. You can just try to delete one graph, one edge or one vertex. It will make it planar. And also these are the simplest non-planar graphs. Okay, because this is the simplest non-planar graph with the smallest number of vertices. So this is the simplest non-planar graph with smallest number of vertices, and this is the simplest non-planar graph with the smallest number of edges. This one has 5C2, that is 10 edges, and this one will have 9 edges. So this is the simplest graph with the smallest number of edges. So these are some observations. There is nothing to prove. Just to see, just to have an idea of the graph and discussing it. Just some observations. There is no need to prove them. Okay, so first graph is the smallest non-planar graph with the smallest number of vertices, and also second graph is the non-planar graph with the smallest number of edges. Okay, some general observations. Okay, so those are simplest non-planar graphs as I have already discussed. Okay, so and another thing of a planar graph is that, so suppose I am looking at this graph here. Okay, so take a planar graph, for example this one, and draw a plane representation of it. Okay, so I will draw it like this, and I will draw it like I will draw it like this one. Okay, so you can see that this planar representation divides the entire region screen into regions. So you can see that there is one region here, so I'll call it as maybe F1. There is one region here, F2. There is another region here, F3, and there is an infinite region bounding it. It's called F4. Okay, so a plane drawing or embedding of a planar graph will divide the plane into regions or faces. Okay, that's one thing, but it is not true for the non-planar representation. This is not true for generally. So even if you are drawing a graph G like this with crossovers, here it is not, regions are not there because this is not a vertex. So this is not valid for a non-planar representation of G. This is only valid for a planar representation of G. Okay, because this region is not defined, because this intersection is not a vertex here. We can't say what is that intersection. Okay, so it is not clear because I can either draw an intersection like this, I can draw it like this, so it is not clear where it is intersecting. So this is not here we cannot define regions. So regions are only defined in the planar representation of a given planar graph. Okay, so it is only defined for the planar representation of it. So similarly, suppose this is my another planar graph. So my regions are F1 is there, F2 is there, and outer infinite region is also there. Okay, that's called the regions. I hope the concept of regions is clear to you. Okay, similarly for non-planar graphs, definitely there are no regions, so there is no need of discussing regions in the case of non-planar graphs. Only for planar graphs, and also there in particular the plane embeddings can be decided what is region. So no, for non-planar embeddings it is not defined. Okay, I hope it is clear what do you mean by region. So here also you can see that some planar graph is here and regions are being marked here. Okay, so there's an infinite region here. So this infinite region has no particular importance, but actually you can make any region infinite. Okay, so if you just redraw this graph, I can make this portion as infinite by a redrawal. So this infinite region does not have any peculiar property. Any region could be made an infinite region. Okay, so any region with the corresponding these vertices and edges, any region which is enclosed by these vertices and edges can be made a infinite region by a redrawal of that. So that we will discuss it later, but that is also possible. Okay, so as a region is characterized by the set of edges forming its boundary. So if you take a region which is characterized by these edges, this also I can make it as infinite region by a redrawal of this graph. Okay, so okay, so as I told you, a region is not defined in a non-planar graph or even a planar graph not embedded in a plane. So we have discussed that also. Okay, so as I told you, a region can be, so there is nothing particular for an infinite region. Suppose I need to make this region as infinite, I can just redraw this graph in such a way that you can see that this region is actually marked by V1, V3 and V5. So this is that region V1, V3. So this region has been made infinite one just by redrawing the graph. So the infinite region does not have any particular importance. Okay, any region could be made infinite. So it is actually based on the stereographic projection or stereographic representation of the graph. Stereographic means we are actually going to represent this graph on a sphere. So based from that theorem, that using that property you can say that any region could be made infinite, but that is not required for it. I'm just giving you for information only. This infinite region does not have any particular properties. Any region could be made infinite by an appropriate redrawal. Okay, that's it. Just try to understand that. Okay, so similarly, as I told you that a planar graph have many different plane representations. For example, your graph, this one, had many representations. You can I think I have drawn this one here. This representation is there. Then this representation was there. Okay, another representation I have already shown you. So many representations are there. So for each representation you can identify different regions and everything. And the main question here is, all the number of regions in every representation just the same. Okay, so that means suppose you have a planar graph and you have many embeddings. The main question, crucial question here is the number of regions in that plane representation same for every embedding of the same graph. Okay, so this is one embedding of the graph, this is another embedding of the graph, and I am asking you, is the number of regions just the same? Okay, so for example, here there is one region, 2 region, 3 region, 4 regions are there. Here also you have 1 region, 2 region, 3 region and 4 region. So number of regions are just the same. Okay, so are the number of regions just the same for any planar representation of the graph? The answer is yes, it is given by Euler's formula. It's very important. So we'll be proving it now. So it's Euler's formula gives you actually the value of number of regions for a planar graph. Okay, so from Euler's formulas we will deduce that the number of regions is just the same. Okay, so Euler's formula. So what is Euler's formula? It's a very simple thing. So it says that n minus e plus f is equal to 2, where n is the number of vertices, e is the number of edges and f is the number of regions. Or you can say that f is equal to e minus n plus 2. Okay, so Euler formula actually gives you the number of edges for a graph with n vertices, for a planar connected graph with n vertices and e edges. Okay, so we are going to prove that process now. Okay, so a connected planar graph with n vertices and e edges have e minus n plus 2 regions, or in other words, suppose if you have f regions are there, it is f is equal to e minus n plus 2 or n minus e plus f is equal to 2. So we will be using both these results. Okay, so we can using both the results. So now let us try to prove this one. We will be using induction to prove this results. We will use basically induction on. So there are many proofs are there in your textbook. Another proof is given in other textbook. Some other proofs are given to you. So it's a very simple thing. I will use basically a simple one. That is, I will be using induction on f. Okay, so and induction on f to prove that f is equal to e minus n plus 2 or just that n minus e plus f is equal to 2. So we will prove induction to use to prove that n minus e plus f is equal to 2. Okay, so how will you use induction? Suppose your f is 1. Okay, suppose your f is 1. So what do you mean by f is 1? That means in your graph, in your connected planar graph, there exists only one region. So when is it possible? It is possible when your graph is, maybe it is like this, or graph is, it is like this. Okay, it is not possible when your graph contains cycles. It will not be possible when your graphs contain cycles, because in that case f will be more than 1. So your graph should be cycleless and also connected. So f is equal to 1 only if your graph contains no cycles and also it is given that is connected. So only is possible when your graph is a tree. So when your graph is a tree, you have to prove that your n minus e plus f is equal to 2. So I am just telling you the f is equal to 1 case applies only for trees, because only in the case of tree you will have f is equal to 1, because in that case there are no circuits. If there are circuits or cycles like this, obviously your graph would contain more regions. So only in the case of trees you will have f is equal to 1. Okay, suppose you have a tree here. Okay, so suppose it has n vertices. How many edges would it have? Obviously you know that it will have n minus 1 edges. Okay, so let us decide what is n minus e plus f there. So that is, it is actually n minus 1 edges plus it has one region plus 1. So what is it? It's simply n minus n plus 1 which is 2. Okay, so when f is equal to 1, the case applies to a tree, and in that case you can see that n minus e plus f is equal to 2. Okay, so the first step of induction is done. Okay, in the second step we will assume that the result is true for all f which is less than or equal to so for all f up till f minus 1. Okay, so the result is true for all graphs with f minus 1 edges up till, so I am using the strong induction. So you know that there are two types of induction here, strong induction and also weak induction. I am using the strong induction here. In weak induction I will just assume that it is true for f is equal to k. I will prove that it is true for f is equal to k plus 1 also. But I am assuming that it is true for all graphs up till f minus 1 regions. So I am assuming a strong induction here. So I will assume that this result is true for all graphs with up to f minus 1 regions, and I will show that this result is true for a graph with f regions. Okay, so I will show that this result is true for a graph with f regions. Okay, so how will you prove it? So suppose you have a graph with n vertices, e edges and f regions. Okay, I will show that n minus e plus f is equal to 2. Okay, so by assumption already we have proved it for f is equal to 1. I will assume that f is greater or equal to 2. Okay, so I will assume that f is greater or equal to 2. Now since f is greater or equal to 2, obviously this graph would contain cycles or circuits. So this graph would contain cycles, because f is equal to 1 case is already covered earlier. So we are now discussing that f is greater or equal to 2. Now since the graph contains more than one region, obviously the graph would contain cycles. Okay, if there was no cycle, it will just be a tree, and then in that case f is just 1. Okay, so I will assume that f is greater or equal to 2, so it contains a cycle. Now we are going to look at that cycle now. Okay, so this is our assumption. Okay, so suppose f has f regions and hence contains a cycle C. Okay, so suppose this is it. Okay, now look at this cycle now. Now the thing is that we have n edges are there, n vertices are there, e edges are there, and also f regions are there. Okay, now look at this. So it contains, this graph contains cycle, it may contain many cycles. Suppose you are just looking at this cycle here. Okay, and look at the edge of the cycle. So suppose I call it as e. Okay, don't mistake this e with this e. This is actually the number e, and here is I am just taking an edge e. Okay, maybe you can use other notation also. Okay, so suppose I am just taking this e. You can say this e is present in two regions, that is the f1 region and also the f2 region as well. Okay, so every edge in a cycle is present in two regions, the inner region and also the outer region. Okay, now what will happen if I just delete this e? What will happen if I just delete this graph e? This entire region would become 1. Okay, so now I delete that cycle, that edge e, what will happen? The graph will still be connected because it's only a cycle, but the number of faces or regions f will reduce by 1. Okay, so if you look at g minus c, suppose this is your graph g. Now if you look at g minus c, it is still connected. Okay, but the number of regions f will be reduced by 1, and the number of edges e also is reduced by 1, but the number of vertices is just the same. Okay, so in that case what can you say? Okay, so in the case of g minus 1, we can say that n minus e minus 1, because the number of vertices edges is here is 1, and also plus f minus 1 is equal to 2. Why is it so? Because we have assumed that by induction the result is true for all graphs with f minus 1 regions. Now this graph g minus e has n vertices, e minus 1 edges and also f minus 1 regions. Therefore, n minus e plus f in this case is n minus e minus 1 plus f minus 1 is equal to 2. That is nothing but n minus e plus 1 plus f minus 1 is equal to 2, or you will have n minus plus f is equal to 2, which was required to be proved. Okay, so this is the proof. Very simple thing. Okay, so how will we prove it? You will assume that the result is true till for all graphs with f minus 1 edges. Okay, and then we'll prove that the result is true for a graph with f regions. Because f is greater or equal to 2, obviously it will contain a cycle or a circuit. Just delete one edge from that circuit. This will reduce the number of regions from f to f minus 1. We can see from the figure here. Okay, and also the number of edges would be reduced from e to e minus 1. And obviously this by induction, this is true for f minus 1 regions also, and therefore in that case it is n minus e minus 1 plus f minus 1 by minus 1 is also equal to 2 here. Therefore n minus e plus f is equal to 2 here. So obviously actually the strong induction was not required here, but still I have used it. We can also use weak induction also because we are using it in the f minus 1 step. Okay, so I hope it is clear. It's very simple thing, and they can definitely ask you this question because it is very important. They can ask you state and prove Euler's formula. Euler's formula is nothing but n minus e plus f is equal to 2, or it is you can say that f is equal to e minus n plus 2. Okay, so these are the Euler's formula. Okay, so this is the proof here, and now we will make some deductions from this Euler's formula. Okay, so first deduction is all plane impedance of a given planar graph have the same number of faces. Why is it so? Because the graph has a fixed number of vertices and a fixed number of edges, and therefore the f would be f is equal to e minus n plus f is equal to e minus n plus 2. So using that, the number of faces would be fixed. Okay, so all plane impedance of a given planar graph has the same number of faces, and similarly each edge of G will belong to one or two faces of G. Okay, for example, suppose my graph G is a tree. Each edge will only belong to exactly one face, and if it is not a tree, suppose it contains some circuits like this, you can see that this edge will belong to this region as well as this region. So each edge, a maximum an edge can belong to two regions or one region also. Okay, so the one region case is actually belonging to a cut edge case. For example, if you look at this graph here, okay, you can see that these edges will belong to two faces, this edge will belong to two faces, but this edge, the property of that edge is that it's a cut edge. Okay, if you just cut that edge here, that means the graph will be disconnected. Therefore, the cut edges belongs to exactly one face only. Okay, because if it belongs to two face, even if you delete it, it will not be disconnected. The proof is not required to you, just for observation I am telling you, only the cut edges would belong to exactly one face. For in a tree, all the edges are cut edges, that is why exactly one edge face it is belonging to. And similarly, this edge is a cut edge, so it is belonging, so if you just delete this edge, this vertex would be disconnected. Okay, so this is also a cut edge, so it also belongs to only one face. All other faces are belongs to all other edges are belonging to two faces. Okay, so an edge that is not a cut edge belongs exactly to two faces. Okay, that's an idea. Okay, now moving forward, so if you look at a region here, so or a face here, the vertices and edges which make up that this face is called its boundary. Okay, so the vertices and edges of G incident with the face F is called boundary. Okay, and these vertices which are lying on this face F are said to be incident with that face. So we will say, suppose this is a vertex V1, this is V2, V3, this is E1, E2, E3. We will say that V1, V2, V3 are incident with F2, or E1, E2, E3 are incident with F2. Okay, so vertices and edges, vertices and edges which are lying on the boundary are said to be incident with that face. Okay, that's one idea. Okay, similarly, so this is a simple observation. So if a G is connected, the boundary of each face is a closed arc in which each edge cut edge is traversed twice. Okay, so I have to make some correction here. So according to your textbook, I am not using textbook. In your textbook, according to the notation which I have already discussed earlier, a walk will not contain repeated edges. According to your textbook. Okay, but generally in other textbook, a walk is basically a alternating sequence of vertices and edges. So it can contain repeated edges. For example, if I start from here, I can go here, I can come here, I can come back here, go here, and that's also a walk. So I can go it like this, I can come here, go like this, again I can go. So this edge is being repeated. Okay, so generally a walk is an alternating sequence of vertices and edges where edges can be repeated generally. But in your textbook, by the definition of walk itself, they are just assuming, they are just telling that actually walk is an alternating sequence of vertices and edges where edges are not repeated. So you stick to the definition for your examinations purposes, but generally I'm just trying to make an observation here. Generally a walk can have repeated edges according to other textbooks. The problem with graph theory is that there is no standardized notation, so there's some confusion can happen. But now assume that suppose your walk can have repeated edges. So you can say that the boundary of each face is a closed walk. Okay, for example, if I start from here, so the boundary of this face F1 is, I'll go to this, I'll go to this, I can go to this, I can go to come here, I'll go to this, and I'll go to this. Okay, so basically if you look at the boundary, it will contain vertices and edges. So it is actually a closed walk containing all the vertices and edges, and where cut edges are repeated exactly twice. So cut edges are traversed exactly twice. So here also you can see that here the boundary is actually this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. There's no repetition is there. So it's basically a closed work in which there's no cut edges there, so there's nothing to discuss there. But if there is a cut edge, it is being traversed twice. If there is no cut edge, we'll say that no edges are repeated, or in other textbooks it is called trail. So we have not discussed trail. For us, trail and walk are just the same here. But beware of the notation. According to your textbook, walk cannot contain repeated edges. But for just remark purpose, just think that a walk can contain repeated edges. So a boundary will have what you say. It can have repeated edges because the boundary is a closed walk containing a closed walk in which each cut edge is repeated twice. Okay, so for our remark purpose only, it is not required for examination. I'm just trying to tell you some observation regarding the boundary of a face here. Okay, so this trail is actually a closed walk which does not contain repeated edges. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so moving forward. Okay, the number of edges incident with a face is called its degree. Okay, so the number of edges, so basically the degree of F2 is 1, 2, 3. Okay, and one slight complication is there. If there is a cut edge, you will have to calculate the cut edge twice. If there is a cut edge, you have to calculate the cut edge twice. So cut edge will contribute 2 to the degree of the face. That is because actually in degree you are actually taking the length of that closed walk. You are taking the length of that closed walk. That is why a cut edge is actually contributing 2 to the closed walk. That is why the degree of cut edge should be 2. Because to discuss this concept, that's why I have discussed that definition of walk there. Different definition of walk there. Because the cut edge actually contributes 2 to that closed walk. So before, if you look at this cut edge, if I look at the boundary here, it will start from here, it will go here, come here, go here, come here. So in that closed walk, this cut edge is traversed twice. So while counting the degree of a face, you have to account 2 to the cut edge. For all other faces, the degree would be just 1. All other edges. For example, if you look at the degree of this face F3, what is it? It's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 degree is 5. And similarly, degree of face F2 is 1, 2, 3. Okay, and degree of face F1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cut edge should be counted twice. And what is, can you define the degree of F4 here? Just think, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and this one is 13 and 14 because this is a cut edge. Okay, so you can see that each edge is contributing 2 to the degree of a graph. Each edge is contributing 2 to the degree of a face. 2 to the overall degrees, because if you look at this edge is there in the degree of F1 and this is also there in the degree of F4. So each edge is contributing 2 to the overall degree of the faces, and even the cut edge, it is lying exactly in one face only, so it already contributes 2. So each edge is contributing 2 to the overall degree, or you can say that sum of the degrees of all the faces is simply twice the number of edges, because each edge is contributing 2 and this cut edge is also contributing 2, because cut edge is only lying in one face only, that is why it is contributing 2 to that face. Okay, so each edge will contribute 2 to the overall degree. Okay, so it's also clear. So maybe you can check it out whether this result was true. So how many edges are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14 are there. So your total degree should be 28. Let us verify. What's the degree of F3? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5. What's the degree of F2? It is 3. What's the degree of F1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what's the degree of F4 now? It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it's 14. Okay, now just count it out. It is 20, 23, 25, 28. So basically it's true. Okay, so the sum of the total degrees of the graph is basically twice the number of edges, just like our handshaking theorem. Okay, so that's it. So moving forward. Okay, it's a very simple thing. These are some simple inequalities. They can ask you these questions for examination. So very simple results. If G is a simple connected planar graph, at least 3 vertices, then E is less than or equal to 3n minus 6. Okay, E is less than or equal to 3n minus 6. E is the number of edges and n is the number of vertices, and E is greater or equal to 3 by 2f. Okay, so it's given to you that this G is simple. Simple means no loops, no self loops, and also no parallel edges, no parallel edges. Okay, so basically if there are loops, for example, suppose my graph is like this. Okay, so how many regions are there? One region F1 is there, one region F2 is there. If there are loops, this F2 is just bound by one edge only. If there are loops, this F2 will be just bounded by one edge only. And also if there are parallel edges, what's the problem there? Suppose my graph is like this. So there is another vertex. So basically, how many edges are there? Here there is one F1 is there, one F2 is there. So we can see that F2 is bounded by two edges. Okay, so if there are loops, a region can be bounded by one edge. If there are parallel edges, a region can be bounded by two edges. But since there are no loops and no parallel edges, there cannot be one edge or two edges. If there is only one edge, it will be self loop. If there are two edges which are bounding it, there will be a parallel edges. So we have assumed that the graph is simple, so there cannot be any loops or parallel edges. So all the regions should be bounded by more than one edge and also two edges. So all the regions are bounded by at least three edges here. That is one observation you have to make. Suppose there are f edges, so each of the f edges are bounded by at least three edges. Okay, so now if you add up the degree of all the faces, each face has at least three edges or more incident on it. So total degree will always be greater than or equal to this 3 into the total number of. So each face contributes 3 to the degree. So each face is actually bounded by at least 3 edges or more. So the total degree of all the faces, if you just add them up, it will always be, if you add up all the total degree, it will always be greater or equal to 3f, because some faces may be bounded by 4 edges, some faces may be bounded by 5 edges, or some faces may be bounded by 3 edges. So in total, it can be, suppose if all the faces are bounded by exactly 3 edges, the total will be equal. Otherwise, the total will be always greater also. So the total degree will always be greater or equal to 3 into f. Now the total degree is nothing but 2 into e. 2 into e is greater or equal to 3 into f, or we can say that e is greater or equal to 3 by 2f. Okay, this was possible only because the graph was simple, and hence there are no one edge or two edge bounded regions. All regions are at least bounded by 3 or more edges, and it is from that result that we are obtaining this one. Okay, so e is greater or equal to 3 by 2f, or you can say that 2e is greater or equal to 3f. Okay, now we also know that n minus e plus f is equal to 2, right? Or you can say that your f is equal to e minus n plus 2. If you use that result here, this is actually 3 into e minus n plus 2. Okay, that is actually 3e minus 3n plus 6. Okay, or if you rearrange 3n, so you can get this as 2e is greater or equal to 3e minus 3n plus 6. If you rearrange, you will have e is less than or equal to 3n minus 6. Okay, so that is another. So this is the Euler's. This is from the Euler's formula. So you can see now we have obtained that if G is a simple connected planar graph with at least 3 vertices, e is less than or equal to 3n minus 6, and e is greater or equal to 3 by 2f. Okay, what is the significance of this result? Because this is the result we are going to use this result to show that K5 is non-planar. K5 is non-planar. Okay, so if they ask you to prove that K5 is non-planar, state this result, prove it, and then show that K5 is non-planar. Okay, how many vertices does K5 have? K5 has 5 vertices. How many edges does it have? It has 10 edges. Okay, because it is 5C2, complete graph on 2 vertices. Okay, so now if you look at, if it is a planar graph, A is always less than or equal to 3n minus 6. So E is 10 less than or equal to 3 into 5 minus 6. 3 into 15 minus 6 is 9. So 10 is not less than or equal to 9. So that means K5 is non-planar because it will not satisfy this condition. K5 will not satisfy this condition, and therefore K5 is non-planar. So this result was basically proved to show that K5 is non-planar. Okay. Okay, so non-planarity of K5, we have used the result here. Okay, so your result is E is less than or equal to 3n minus 6. Okay, and one more thing, this result is only a necessary condition. Okay, so this is only a necessary condition, not sufficient condition. Okay, it's only a necessary condition, it's not a sufficient condition. Okay, it's not a sufficient. What do you mean by that? Okay, it means that if a graph is planar, it will obviously satisfy this condition. If it's a graph is planar, it will obviously satisfy this condition. If a graph is non-planar, so okay, but if you just satisfy this condition, it will not be sufficient to show that. If suppose a graph G satisfies this condition, it doesn't mean that the graph is planar. Okay, so what the difference is, if a graph is planar, it will definitely satisfy this condition. Okay, but there can also be non-planar graphs which will satisfy this condition. That is the issue here. So all planar graphs will satisfy this condition, plus there can also be some non-planar graphs which will satisfy this condition. So we will say that this is a necessary condition, but it is not a sufficient condition because there are also non-planar graphs which will satisfy this condition. For example, this K33. K33 will satisfy this condition, but it is a non-planar graph. Okay, for example, K33 has 6 vertices and how many edges? 9 edges. So we will have 9 is less than or equal, is 9 less than or equal to 3 into 6 minus 6. 3 into 6 minus 6 is 18 minus 6, which is 12. So K33 will satisfy this condition, but it is non-planar. So merely satisfying this condition is not sufficient to show that a graph is non-planar. Okay, so we'll say that this condition is only a necessary condition, not a sufficient condition. Okay, now how will we show that K33 is non-planar? For that also we'll derive a result which is applicable for bipartite graphs. Okay, so okay, number of edges in a planar bipartite graph ordering is at most. So K33 is a bipartite graph, we know that. So number of edges in a planar bipartite graph of ordering is at most 2n minus. So this is only applicable for bipartite graphs. Okay. Okay, so we will show that. So the one important result on bipartite graph is that, I hope you know what is a bipartite graph. You can actually divide the vertex set into 2 such that there is no edges between one set and other. So there will be no edges between this set and there will be only edges between these two sets, and among the vertices in the one set there will not be edges. So there will be no edges like this. So this type of edges are not possible there. Okay, only we will have combinations between this set. Suppose this one can have combinations like this one, this one can have edges like this, but cannot have edges like this one. So between a particular subset there will not be any edges. Okay, that is the meaning of planar bipartite graph, like matching problem. Okay, so in planar bipartite graph there are no cycles of length 3. There cannot be, there are no odd cycles, but there are no cycles of, for our purpose there are no cycles of length 3. There are no circuits of length 3. There cannot be any circuits of length 3. This is one important result you can use. Why is it so? Because you can simply look at here. Suppose I need a circuit here. Suppose I am starting from this vertex. I can go to here, one edge. Okay, so maybe there is another edge like this. 2 edges are there. But in order to come, so now this has length 2 now. In order to make it a cycle, I should draw an edge there. So, but since if I draw an edge from this set to this set here, it will not become a cycle. So in order to close it, you will have to draw it between these two. Okay, I will draw it a bit more clearly now. Suppose you have 2 vertices are partitioned like this. Okay, suppose I need to create a cycle of length 3 here. Okay, so first I will draw a edge between these 2 vertices. Maybe I will draw an edge between these 2 vertices. Okay, now I have got a length 2 path now. Again, I need to make a cycle of length 3. Is it possible? It is not possible. It will be possible only if I can draw it and it's between like this, like this. It is not possible. Or if I draw any other edge between this vertex set and this vertex set, it will not become a cycle there. Like, it is not possible there. Okay, so a cycle of length 3 is not possible, because if I try to draw a cycle of length 3, what will happen is that the vertices in this partition would be matched. It cannot happen in a bipartite graph. So in a bipartite graph, cycles of length 3 are not possible, because if you try to draw it, it is not possible. But cycles of length 4 are possible. How is it so? Because if I just draw it like this one, this is a cycle of length 4. Even number cycle is possible, but this length 3 is not possible, because in this case I cannot connect these two edges here, because these two vertices here, because in then this bipartition would be, maybe this bipartition would be violated. So in a bipartite graph you cannot construct cycles of length 3. Okay, that means you will not have regions of degree 3 there. In a bipartite graph, a region cannot be bounded by just 3 vertices. 3 edges. So a region cannot be bounded by 3 edges. So all the regions should either be bounded by 1 or 2, or it's not 1 or 2, because there are no loops, and there are no here it's my bipartite graph, there are no loops are there are no parallel edges are there. Okay, so it's basically bipartite graph only. So basically in this graph, all the regions should contain more than 3 edges, because there are no cycles of length 3. So all the regions should contain more than 3 edges. So that means each region would contain at least 4 edges which are bounding it. Okay, so that means the total degree would be greater or equal to 4f. Total degree would be greater or equal to 4f, or 2e is greater or equal to 4f. Okay, so that's it. So from this you can easily prove it now. 2 is greater or equal to 4f, or u is greater or equal to maybe 2f. Now what is f? F is actually 2 into, as I told before earlier, e minus n plus 2. So it is e is greater or equal to 2e minus 2n plus 4, or your e is less than or equal to 2n minus 4. Okay, so for a bipartite graph, from the Euler's formula you can derive that e is less than or equal to 2n minus 4. This is actually derived because of the result that there are no cycles of length 3. That means all the regions should contain at least more than 3 edges. So it is from that result that we are deducing this result now. So that is true for a bipartite graph. Now look at your K33. What is the problem with K33? Now K33 has how many edges? 9 edges and 6 vertices, and now is 9 less than or equal to 2 into 6 minus 4, 12 minus 4, 8. So it does not satisfy that. So it is violated. Therefore, that means K33 is not a planar graph. Okay, so this is also only a necessary condition. We have to show sufficient condition, most required, but we'll stop it here, because we just need to prove that K5, the Korotowski's 2 graphs are non-planar. We have proved that K5 and K33 are non-planar. So these type of questions can come. They can ask you show that Korotowski's first graph is non-planar, or they can ask you show that Korotowski's second graph is non-planar. Okay, so for that these two results you have to prove beforehand, and using that you can deduce that. Okay, so that is it. Okay, so this is it, and this is that also. Okay, and finally in the last section we'll just discuss Korotowski's theorem. It is, the proof is not required for you. I'll just discuss it. So suppose a graph contains, so you know that Korotowski's 2 graphs, that is K5 and K33, are non-planar. Suppose the Korotowski's theorem states that suppose a graph contains K5 or K33, it will be non-planar. If it contains a subgraph which is isomorphic to K5 and K33, obviously it cannot be planar, because K5 is non-planar, K33 is not. So even if a part is K5 itself, you cannot draw a graph which is not crossing over. So if a graph contains K5 or K33, it is non-planar. Okay, so that is Korotowski's theorem. The proof is not required in your syllabus, so I'll just state it now. A necessary and sufficient condition for a graph to be planar is that G does not contain either of Korotowski's 2 graphs or any graph homeomorphic to either of them. So what do you mean by this homeomorphism? So it is not required for you in detail. I'll just give you an example only. A homomorphic is basically 2 graphs are said to be homomorphic if you can construct one graph by subdividing the edges. Okay, for example, look at this graph here. Okay, this is just for understanding and telling you. So if you look at this graph is actually obtained by subdividing this edge. this graph is obtained by subdividing this side. So we'll say that these two graphs are homoeomorphic. So two graphs are said to be homeomorphic if they are obtained by subdividing a same graph, or if one is obtained by subdividing the edges of another graph. Okay, so two graphs are said to be homeomorphic if one graph is obtained by subdividing the edges of the other graph. Okay, so there are many definitions of homeomorphism. This is one simple definition. Okay, similarly, if you look at this graph here, you can see that this is also obtained by subdividing the edges here. So here the edge was subdivided here it was subdivided here. So basically, these two graphs are homeomorphic. Okay, and similarly, these two graphs are also homeomorphic because there's a transitive properties also hold here, because you can see that these two are homeomorphic, these two are homeomorphic. From that you can say that these two also are homeomorphic, but it's not required for you. Just try to understand what is homeomorphic. They will not ask you define homeomorphic. Have a broad understanding of what you mean by homeomorphism. Only that is enough. Okay, so Kuratowski's theorem, they can ask you state Kuratowski's theorem, show that K5 is non-planar, or show that K33 is non-planar. Okay, so a necessary and sufficient condition for a graph to be planar is that it does not contain Kuratowski's two graphs or any graph homeomorphic to either of them. Okay, so that's all. Okay, so that's all. Okay, thank you.